and stay out of the marked AoE areas and all that stuff. And
so enters the WoW phase of raiding.
Right. You know a lot more about this than I do. I mean, I have a little experience during Burning Crusade, but
yeah,
I think you did it for much longer.
I did a little raiding in vanilla. I did raiding in Burning Crusade, and I did hardcore raiding in Wrath.
Mm-hmm.
And then I quit and never went back, except for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about it. So I never did molten core in vanilla, but that was really telling about the structure of how the raids work, because it's like 40 man. There's like a set amount of time that it would minimum take, which I think was like 30 hours or something like that originally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just how long it took to get through the trash to get to each boss, and you'd have to divvy it out across like an entire weekend.
Right.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember vanilla WoW that well, to be honest.
Right.
I do remember doing Onyxia, which Onyxia was interesting because that was one of the only raids in vanilla WoW that only had one boss to it.
Mm.
So you go through a few trash packs, and then you get to the boss's lair.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I remember about Onyxia in particular is that for like the first 5 minutes of the fight, you wouldn't, like, I was a mage, so I did spellcasting. Like, the mages wouldn't actually attack and start using spellcast until like the 5 minute mark in the fight, because so that the tank could get aggro, because aggro generation was really wonky back then.
Right. Go ahead and fight me again.
So like mages would just auto attack with their wands for like 5 minutes until they finally started to use actual attack rotations. The thing that I thought was interesting was the RNG in Onyxia, because we're talking about like the building of mechanics. There was an RNG mechanic in Onyxia where the raid members could get feared and made to I don't know what like the D&D equivalent would be, like hysterical running around.
Right. That's fair, basically.
Yeah. Okay, just making sure we're all talking about the same. We all understand what we're talking about. Fearing just makes your character run around randomly. And so there was a mechanic in Onyxia where if someone got fled to the back of the arena, they'd actually run into the whelpling area, and they would aggro a bunch of ads back there. And if someone went into the whelpling area, like, the raid was over.
Right.
So like that was one of the first. I think that was one of the first huge RNG mechanics that was introduced that way. I can't attest to molten core mechanics because I never really did it in vanilla. I just remember Onyxia, and I remember doing. I don't remember the other ones. I'm sorry. Onyxia is all I remember.
Right.
Anyway, so so in Burning Crusade, the real interesting thing was Karazhan. That's the main raid I did. And the thing that was interesting was that was only a 10-man raid. Where in vanilla, I think all the raids were 40-man. I think.
Right. Yeah. I think they were kind of trying to emulate the EverQuest thing by making them kind of big and heroic and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's a mission vote.
I got it.
Because I remember like a molten core, like the big 40-man thing, and like it was supposed to be like a very epic thing. Like you had to get down to the, you had to fight through the trash and get through the stuff, and then it was kind of like like I said, like in EverQuest, it kind of, I think they were trying to go for like that heroic feel. You're on this plane of power, and you were on this the playground of the gods.
Right.
And so then you fought the avatar of the god there, and it's supposed to kind of feel like this big epic thing.
But I think they acknowledge that with the popularity of raids that they wanted to make it a little more accessible.
Right. And so with Karazhan and the 10-person raid, definitely kind of made it feel like it was a little more exactly like that.
Yeah, and they stopped doing 40-man raids after vanilla. The largest raids that they did after that was 25-man. So
right.
I don't remember all the Burning Crusade raid names, but I remember they had Karazhan, then they had, I think, Grom's Lair, and that was 25-man.
Yeah.
And then they kind of started alternating between 25 and 10-man, if I remember correctly. You'd have a 10-man, then a 25, or maybe it was just Karazhan, and then the rest were 25.
I think it was just Karazhan, because I remember kind of feeling like Karazhan was kind of like the intro, like you'd get a couple friends together, dip your toe in this kind of this giant area. Again, that was kind of laid out like this giant Tower of Magic,
which I love. That's the only raid I did in Burning Crusade.
Right.
Because I could never get a 25-man group together. I only had 10 friends in that game.
Right.
But
I did some mid-tier raiding, and we did some of the larger ones. But yeah, there was the Eye.
Oh yeah.
I think it was 25 or something. That was
Tempest
that was
Keep.
another. Right.
Sunwell, like the sun. Just. Anyways, so one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about was like the Temple of Encourage. Before we get too far into Burning Crusade, I just want to take a step back and talk about Encourage, because that one stood out. That was there. I guess I quit the game just after Encourage came out, and then I came back in Burning Crusade.
Right.
But the thing that made AQ interesting was that they did a huge, like, community event around it, where people had to turn in like resources and crafting materials in order to unlock the raid.
Right.
And I think that's worth talking about, because I haven't seen a game do that kind of stuff. Maybe Guild Wars has done something like that, but
right. Well, yeah. I mean, again, I think that kind of goes along with the idiom of talking about raids, where it was supposed to feel kind of like larger than life and heroic. I remember the Encourage stuff. Yeah, I mean, they were kind of framing it, the story wise, as like, oh, we're going to raid this this place full of evil, and we need to basically kind of like get supplies together and help the people that's going to be affected, and
right, it's like relief efforts.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting, because like that was kind of trying to get a rather indifferent community to cooperate with each other in a sense, or create a sense of community. To create a sense of community. Which I don't know whether it accomplished that or not, but the memes were very entertaining that came out of that. So I thought that was interesting. Let me see here. The other raid that really stood out to me was Sunwell in Burning Crusade. Because Sunwell came out with its own like daily quest zone that like upgraded and improved as people participated around it. I think that unlocked parts of the raid as well over time, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong about that, but that sounds like something that Blizzard would do.
Right.
And I loved the Sunwell zones. The Isle of Quodanis, I think it was called.
Yeah. I forget the name of it, but yeah, I remember there was an island, and yeah, you had to run through the island in order to get to the entrance of the raid and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. I never did Sunwell itself at the time, but I did the daily quest around it, so I thought that was fun.
Right.
Oh, and hi,
Well, I mean,
Surian. I see you in the chat. Sorry, go ahead.
I get the feeling that basically part of the idea here is to basically kind of like get, like, because I mean raiders tend to be a minority of players.
Mm-hmm.
But they tend to kind of be a very kind of outsized influence on the game for a couple of reasons. Mostly because, like, they're called what's called aspirational.
Right.
Other achievers basically will, like, see these people and go, oh hey, like, they got all that cool gear. Someday that'll be me, so I want to keep on playing this game.
Ooh. Ooh, piece of candy.
Oh, wow. Give me the gold for one of the things I really don't care about. But yeah, I think that and so, and the other thing too is, like, you tend to, like, your hardcore players tend to be the ones that are, they're basically like that. Like, they're the ones that basically kind of like, they want to go and do the raiding, and so they're the ones that go and tell the cool stories, tell all their friends, oh hey, over the weekend I did this kind of totally cool thing.
They're kind of like the recruiters, almost in a sense.
Right. And so, like, they're the ones, even though, potentially, their friends can't get in and do the raiding right away necessarily, these are the interesting things. It's kind of like, here, I'll make Jajara happy. It's kind of like EVE Online with all the stories going about,
the corporations.
Yeah. I mean, the chances of somebody actually, running into that are pretty low, depending on the corp they join and whatnot. Especially a smart corp's not going to allow, some newbie to, hopefully not going to allow some newbie to do, to be in a position to do all that harm. But still, like, these stories kind of like excite people, and they get, and when somebody goes and tells their friends, like, oh, I spent all weekend, recovering from this horrible thing that happened. Or they read stories saying, someone literally walked off with tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff.
Right. There you go. There's your Eve reference. And savor it. One of these podcasts, we're gonna have to get on Eve and have Dejaro, like, babysit us through it.
Watch us just get potted.
Yeah. Oh, bye, Dejaro.
Bye, exactly. Now we're gonna go over here. Hey, there's some of your court mates. No, everything's fine. Just lower your shields.
Nice. Anyways.
Thanks for mining the asteroids for the past 5 hours, guys.
Dejaro.
We'll take it from here.
Dejaro, it could happen. Oh my goodness. The mayhem. Anyways.
Yeah. But yeah, but I get the feeling that a lot of the mechanics of, like, Blizzard was trying to do with, World of Warcraft raiding during this time, like Encourage and Sunwell and whatnot, were to basically kind of like try to involve other people, that probably weren't going to raid under normal circumstances. This might get them more invested in the idea of raiding,
because they're there by proximity.
Right. Or like, oh hey, I collected 5,000 bandages for Encourage. Might as well stick my head in and see what that's about.
Yeah, like with the Sunwell Plateau.
Right.
Like, you're physically right outside the raid doing those quests, so, like, you're staring at that entrance, going, what's inside?
Right.
The Tournament of Champions did the same thing too. It had daily quests around it, around that raid. So I think, personally, I think the value, not the value, but the significance of raiding has been kind of muddled in recent years in like World of Warcraft and like Final Fantasy 14.
Well, I mean, like you were saying too, like raids kind of being just essentially harder content in Destiny means that even the term is kind of like lost some of its cachet potentially.
Because I'm because like WoW and 14 both have like normal raids now, and then they have the real raid difficulty. So they'll have like the normal raid for like the normies, and then they'll have savage mode or mythic mode for the hardcore raiders. And I think that that's slightly diluted the significance of raiding in general, because like I personally I did the hardcore raiding stuff in WoW back in Wrath, and we'll get to that, but like I don't do it anymore just because I can do the normal mode, I can get the story. That's why I used to raid, was to enjoy the story that was told about
but
it.
If you get the raid and the normal mode stuff, why torture yourself with the hard mode stuff?
Right.
Yeah, and so like Final Fantasy 14, which we both play, kind of like has specialized the raiding a bit more, where you have trials, which are based like 8-person fights, and then you have the extreme trials, which is a little bit which is harder version of that, which is kind of a kind of an entry level raid type experience, because there's a lot of mechanics to these boss fights. You've got alliance raids, which are basically 3 groups of 8 people each. And these are basically kind of like a lot of time, kind of like the old style raids. Going through an area. Usually there's some kind of story with it. The Crystal Tower, Void Ark, Ravenaste.
What?
I jumped on someplace I shouldn't have.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's a damage field up there.
Ooh.
Anyway, and then you have kind of your normal raids, which were kind of a large group things, and these were kind of restricted initially. Like the alliance raids, you can kind of queue for immediately, but the normal raids were a little restricted. And then basically they have what are called the savage version of these raids. This is like Binding Coils of Bahamut in Realm Reborn, Alexander, and Heaven's Ward, and now you have the Omega.
Yeah.
And so basically you kind of have this transition from being kind of a open world free for all mass group of people, like ants swarming a giant monster, to something like a lot more like where you have kind of entry level, kind of the basic level. You have people doing the mythic or the savages as well.
I'm pretty sure their raids are called mythic. I know they have mythic dungeons.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure there's a mythic raid.